Hello, my lovely listeners. Welcome back to the Lexi Diaries. This is week 3 of the podcast. If you're just now starting to listen, hi, I'm Lexi. I will be your host. If you have heard some of the other episodes or you plan to, I would actually love that. Welcome back. I hope y'all's week is going amazing so far and that the rest of your week goes great. I'm not going to do a very long intro today. I'm not even quite sure how long this episode's going to be. I had a few topics that I was going to choose from. This is I don't want to say harder week because it's not, I don't want this to be hard for you to listen to. I'm going to say the less lax week. So last week's episode was concert tips and tricks. If you have not given it a listen, you definitely should. It is one of my lighter episodes. Well, I only have 3 so far, but it is a lighter episode, just something for you to listen to while you're trying to not take things too seriously. Maybe take some tips that I gave out for concerts if you possibly have one coming up. And even if you don't have a concert coming up, just maybe just to have that knowledge just for the future if you do decide at some point to go do that. It is really fun. You should if you haven't also. I feel like everyone should go to a concert at some point in their life. But today we are going to talk about my self-destructive tendencies. So, self-destructive tendencies. In my opinion, we all have them, okay? And if you don't, you amaze me. Or maybe you just don't realize you have them. But if you seriously don't, again, you amaze me. I'm so proud of you. I'm glad that you do not self-sabotage like I feel like half of us in this world do. But if you're someone oh my god, I can't talk today. I have been struggling to record this episode also. Let me just put a disclaimer out there really quick. I have tried to record this episode 2 different times and I can't speak. My brain's all over the place. It's honestly been a little bit of a rough week. So I just haven't really been in the right mindset to record this as much as I want to. So I really hope I can give y'all some help or knowledge in how I tend to self-destruct, so that maybe either if y'all do these things and you don't necessarily realize you are, maybe you'll be a little more self-aware, or just so you can avoid to be like me. If anything, like the things that I do sometimes, it's really not intentional. Sometimes it is, but 9 times out of 10, I don't mean to do these things that I do. It's just kind of the way I'm wired, I guess. I've struggled with anxiety and depression for quite some time now. So I would say these are just kind of habits, not good habits, but habits that I've definitely picked up along the journey of my 21 years on this earth that I've been here. But yeah, disclaimer again, these are all of my thoughts and opinions. What might work for me to process these thoughts and feelings that I have could very much not help you at all. And if not, I'm sorry. I honestly probably don't have the best coping skills anyway, or the best way to process this anyway, but I don't know. I want to make someone feel a little less alone, I guess, because when I first realized some of these things that I did, and when I was writing the list of these things that I do, for the longest time, I never realized I did them. And I don't know what had flipped in my brain. I don't know if I just became more knowledgeable about the situation, but I never realized growing up that these things were actually I was self-destructing. I was literally sabotaging myself before someone else even could. So it was kind of a long intro, even though I just said I wasn't going to do a long intro, but let's just get into it. So my first self-destructive tendency, I would say, is to push people away when I get too close. So this is more so for relationships. I wouldn't say for friendships. If I click instantly with a girl, there's nothing wrong with that. Those are my favorite type of friendships, that I meet you and we click instantly. But I would say more so for relationships. So I don't want to say I did research, but I was looking a little into how common some of these things are that I do, and trying to see if I was really the only one who was going through it, which I knew I wasn't, which was very nice to kind of feel a little understood by someone else going through it, even though I hate that anyone has to go through this. But I'm just going to give y'all a little definition really quick. So, cherophobia, or cherophobia. I think it's cherophobia, though. But it's the knowledge that happiness doesn't last and the anxiety of knowing when something bad, the anxiety of not knowing when something bad will happen. Therefore, choosing to avoid happiness altogether, because at least in sadness, you know what to expect. And the only place you can then go is up. When I read that, I nearly shit myself. Okay? Because I never realized for the longest time that I do tend, or I'm not as much anymore, but I tend to avoid happiness sometimes because I just think it's going to end, especially with relationships. Like when I feel like I'm getting a little too close to someone or we're talking too much and I actually am really starting to like this person, I freak out and I tend to distance myself, not respond as much, and slowly kind of hope that they choose to not talk to me first, so then at least I'm right. And I knew they were going to get bored of me, which is completely backwards and confusing and wrong, and that's not at all true, but I do these things to myself, and I really don't mean to. And I never even realized it till this past year, honestly, when I became single. Like, I would go on a date with such a sweet guy, would literally open the door for me, like, buy my food, just so sweet. But after the date, I would just feel gross after. Like, I would feel disgusted, honestly, because I'm like, why did he like me so much? Like, I'm not that great. When that's the worst possible way and just thing to think about yourself. Like, I am a very good person if you ask me. Like, I try to be the best person I can be. And in all reality, any man would be blessed to have me. But for some reason, I also am on the complete other side of the spectrum, and I feel like I'm not good enough for anyone. So it's just a really hard and confusing thing that I realize that I struggle with. I have a very hard time getting close to people. And when I do get really close to people, especially too fast, especially a man, I just sabotage. And this might be why I'm still single to this day. But also I do have expectations, which are important. You need to have expectations. We will have a whole other episode on how to be single. That is something that is coming up, so y'all be ready for that. But it is important to have these expectations, but when someone matches all my expectations and I still see so much wrong with them because they think I'm such an amazing person, I don't know. I freak out. Does it make sense? No. If any of that made sense, thank God. It might not have, and I might just be word vomiting, and I'm so sorry if that's the case. But it's just a thing I do. I don't know how else to break that down. But kind of a way I try to cope and deal with it when I realize what I'm doing is I acknowledge it. I acknowledge the feeling. It's a 3-step thing also. So 1, I acknowledge it. I notice that I'm doing what I'm doing. Either I'm pushing someone away because they're texting me all the time, which could be a normal thing. Like, we could be texting every day, and then one day a switch just flips, and I'm like, why are they answering me so fast? Or why are they answering me so slow? I start to overthink everything. And so just the number 1 step is to acknowledge what I am doing. And then I ask myself why I'm feeling this way. Number 2, I ask myself, why am I feeling like this? Is it because A, they are too clingy and you don't want someone like that in your life anyway, so you're feeling like this because they're not matching your needs? Or am I feeling like this because I'm just, again, self-sabotaging? Like, I'm noticing they're getting too close and I'm starting to freak out. And then number 3, is this a rational feeling? So when I just start to freak out, I typically try to push through. I try to keep talking to this person or try to see if even we could just potentially be friends, just because I don't want to be mean or push someone away or make them feel like they're not good enough when that's not the case. Just most of the time I'm sabotaging myself. But I have done that a lot of times and made really nice guys feel really horrible when that wasn't at all my intention, but I just don't know how to openly communicate that I have problems. Like, I can't get close. It's just really hard for me. And I've gotten so much better, thankfully. And I'm very self-aware of it now, but it's still something I will catch myself doing to this day. And I really need to stop. But if it is a rational feeling, they're being too clingy or they're being disrespectful and it really isn't a joke, like just things that are actual red flags and things that I don't want in my life, then obviously I'll cut them off. But I just try to follow these 3 steps to try to not push away and be mean to a very nice guy, or not waste my time by trying to be nice or make things work when they in all reality do not. I feel like this whole episode's gonna be a mess also, so y'all are really just gonna have to bear with me. But that's all I got for that one. Number 2 is overbooking myself. So by this, I mean just making too many plans, okay? Too many plans just so that I'm distracted and I'm not doing all the things I actually need to be doing, which is so bad. Half the time, again, this is unintentional. Like, I'll set my whole week up and then it'll be Wednesday and I'm like, why am I so exhausted? And it's because I haven't taken any time for myself. I haven't had a night where I'm able to just sit in bed and watch Friends for the last 30 minutes of my night. Or I haven't been able to just relax after work and put a record on and just hang out with my animals. Just not following my routine and avoiding all the obligations I have, like laundry, dishes, just all of those things. And even like my mental state, like say I have a lot going on mentally, I will tend to schedule things into my day so that I'm distracted and I'm not alone with my thoughts, which is the worst possible way to cope with your thoughts. Like you need to be alone. Even if you are in a very loving relationship, and if you are, you go girl or you go boy, like so happy for you. I hope that works out if that's what you truly want. But you still need your alone time. You still need your time to process your emotions by yourself and grow by yourself and know what you like to do by yourself. And again, I'm kind of getting into not next week, but a few weeks later's episode of How to Be Single. But just, I tend to not prioritize my schedule. And instead, I try to fill my schedule so that I can void all of the things I actually need to do. Like, I'll even go to plans that I don't necessarily want to do. Like, I'll make the plans a week in advance. The time will come. My friends would very much understand if I'm not mentally there today or we need to reschedule. But I will make myself feel like shit to where I need to go to those plans or I'm failing them, when that's not the case. Like, they'll be fine. If they're your actual friends, they will understand either if you're going through something or you simply just need a rest day. Like, if they're your friends, they'll understand, babe. They will. I promise. So it's very important to give yourself that alone time to check in with yourself and make sure we're good here, so that we can be good when we go out there, and give also our friends or whoever we're spending that time with all of our good energy and not our stressful, overworked energy. But anyway, so number 3, this kind of ties in, well, no, not really. So number 3, making assumptions. Okay. I am so horrible with this. The reason that is because I will assume what the other person's either thinking or going to say. So I'll think of like an issue I have, or just I'll need to talk to someone about something, but half the time I don't believe that person will get where I'm coming from, and I don't want to say what I want to hear, but like, so let me rewind. Me and my sister have this thing. So sometimes we just want to talk and we don't want an opinion. We just want to talk. We're not asking to be corrected. We're not asking for advice. We just want to vent. We just want to get everything off of our chest, right? But sometimes I do want opinions and I do want advice, and that's what your friends are for, right? I mean, obviously they don't know everything, unfortunately. I wish they did. That would make my life so much easier. But just, I won't talk to them sometimes because I will assume that they're going to just say the wrong thing, which is such a horrible thing to say when I say it out loud. But, like, we can't, I don't know, we can't control how people take a certain situation. We also can't control how people treat us. But also this can lead to me making assumptions. Like, sometimes I will see that someone's upset and I'll be like, what's wrong? And they're like, nothing. And I'm like, oh, so it's me. Like, that's what goes on my brain. I'm like, oh, so it's me. Like, I'm the problem. Because you don't want to talk to me about the problem. So obviously I'm the problem. When that's not at all the case. Just sometimes people don't want to talk. And that's completely reasonable. But I will make just the worst assumptions. Or like, I don't know. I don't know where I was honestly going to keep going with that. But just, I make assumptions a lot, like, especially also, like, relationship-wise. Like, if a guy's, like, being a little distant, I'll be like, oh, he's talking to other bitches. That's not true. I mean, most times it is. No, let me not say that. That's not true. But I will assume that. Just making assumptions. I assume everything. I think I know everything, and it's not true. I don't know a lot. I'm just like everyone else on here. I'm just trying to figure it out, and that's also one of the reasons I made this, is because I want to help everyone else just try to kind of figure it out. Like, we can do that together. I don't know. But anyway. This is what I was going to get into. So this next one ties into the two before. So, focusing on everyone but myself. So I had made this a bullet point itself because this is a very serious problem. But it's also not exactly what it sounds like. So what I mean by focusing on everyone but myself is taking other people's problems and making them my own. So I have a really hard time that, like, say I'm at work and my coworker's not having the best day, I will let that affect my mood. And it's not good. I will think about that and I will, like, physically be drained and exhausted because I'm worried for them about a situation they're going through, which is fine. But when it consumes me is when it's a problem. And I do typically do this quite often, and it's not the best thing to do. And just letting what other people think about me affect me. I mean that by focusing on everyone but myself, I let other people's thoughts and opinions about me affect me when they shouldn't. The only opinion that matters is my own of myself. If I love myself, then that's all that matters. And just, I have a really hard time sometimes remembering that. And I feel like we all could use a reminder that it's sad when you say it like this, but you really only have yourself in this world, okay? So make sure you're good, babe, okay? Because friends, relationships, they come and go, but you're the one that has to live with yourself and your decisions. So just do what the fuck makes you happy, babe. And focus on you and your goals and your dreams and your ambitions. And everything will work out for you, I promise. I told y'all guys, I'm having a really hard time this week with this episode and just my thoughts and everything in general. So I'm very sorry. But just focusing on everyone but to myself. I feel like we all struggle with this. It's a lot easier to focus on everyone but yourself because, you know, your advice can be taken and you actually can help someone and you feel good. But sometimes just when you hear advice or you're trying to help yourself and it's just not working, like, it's just easier to say, fuck it, I'm just going to be sad and I'm just going to be depressed and I don't want to do this anymore. And half the time I want to do that. But that's not a fun way to live. And it's not a happy way to live either. And just focus on yourself, okay? Sorry, guys, again, for, like, the 50th time. Jesus. Last but not least, I'm going to wrap up this episode. It's kind of a shorter episode, than the last one, but I'm struggling this week, guys, which is okay. Again, we're allowed to have rough weeks. I feel like it's just January. We all have all these goals set for ourselves, and I feel like we're all a little cold because of the weather and tired, and just we're almost done with the month, and I feel like some of us are putting a lot of pressure on ourselves when we shouldn't, because guys, it's only the first month of the year. We're allowed to rest, and we're allowed to slip up a little bit. Okay, we're human. We're not perfect, and we're never gonna be. So, but again, last but not least, this topic's a little harder for me to talk about. I don't want to say harder for me to talk about, but I wasn't sure if I wanted to touch into this. If you're not comfortable with the topic I'm about to talk about, you're more than welcome to sign off. I hope you have a beautiful rest of your week if you do choose to do so, and I love you. But if you are wanting to stay, the last topic I will be talking about today is my relationship with eating and food. So, I used to think I could never talk about this. I'm kind of a smaller girl. I've always been called tiny my whole life. I hate that fucking word, but I've always been called small, tiny, skinny, just, that's always been a thing since I was young, and I believe that's one of the things that made me struggle with this so much when I was younger, is because that's what everyone thought of me as. So being anything else actually freaked me out. If I gained a pound or two, I didn't feel like I was good enough, and I just wasn't tiny enough anymore. And if I wasn't the tiny girl, then who the fuck was I? When that wasn't true, but I used to think I couldn't talk about this at all, and I'm very grateful for where I am now, that I can actually talk about this and be vulnerable about this. But yeah, I used to not eat at all. In high school, I had a really big problem with my weight and loving myself and accepting me for who I was, and I wouldn't eat. I would eat enough to keep me alive, but I would not eat enough for a proper growing girl. And it put me down a really, really dark, bad path that I didn't even realize I was going on, because at the time, a few years ago, this wasn't talked about at all. And I'm very, very, very grateful that it's more talked about and spoke on, and that people are able to receive the help that they need and can talk to people about this. But I do still struggle. It's still a everyday thing. I've always kind of had a weird relationship with food, and but thankfully it's not that I'm not eating anymore. I eat a lot, which is great. I love eating. It's one of my favorite things to do. But just, I have my days where sometimes food just does not taste good. Everything tastes like shit, or just nothing sounds good, so I won't want to eat because nothing sounds good. But that doesn't mean I can't not eat just because nothing sounds good. Like, I'll go to eat dinner, but I don't want to cook, so then I'll be like, oh, I'll just eat a sandwich. And I'm like, ew, I don't want a fucking sandwich for dinner. I just want to eat. No. I need to force myself. And especially this past week, it's been really, really hard for me. And I feel like that's why it's kind of a little more difficult for me to talk about all of this in general right now. And just about this particular topic. And I do want to do an episode at some point when I am more comfortable talking about it, about just, I don't want to say my journey, but like my struggle with my eating disorder when I was growing up. And if y'all are interested in that, I can definitely try to do that for y'all. And if it's not something y'all are interested in, please be completely open and honest with me. I don't need to talk about this if y'all don't want to hear it. I'm completely fine with that. Some people just don't want to hear it. Some people don't struggle with this, and I'm so happy for you. I'm so so, so happy for you. Like, stay strong, stay healthy. But yeah, I do want to speak on that at some point a little more in depth. But my struggle with food more now is just I do have to force myself sometimes, and it's not always fun. But it's all kind of a mind game. Like, if I tell myself I'm hungry, I can kind of eat. As silly as it sounds, it does help me a little bit. Whereas if mentally I'm like, oh, that doesn't sound good, it won't sound good. But if mentally I'm like, oh, okay, like, I mean, I guess, like, you need to eat something, Alexia, you need to eat. I can try to eat, and it won't necessarily try to come right back out of me. But this is just something I have struggled with throughout high school, especially. I'm, again, a lot better now. But this definitely was a very self-destructive thing that I struggled with for a very, very long time. And it's still something that I will most likely deal with my whole life, and that's okay. I'm not glad I went through it, but I'm glad I have the knowledge I have about it. And so if I ever do see either my friends, or if I do choose to have kids at some point, if I see the signs and I see my people struggling, I can help them. That's really all I want to do. That's why, again, I started this podcast, and that's why I kind of talk about these things that I'm honestly not good at talking about sometimes, but I'm trying, and I will get better, guys, I promise. But yeah, that's my self-destructive tendencies. Self-sabotaging is not fun. I don't mean to do it. I don't feel like any of us mean to do it, but it is comforting to know that I'm not the only one that does do this. And I just kind of wanted to help comfort anyone else. If you feel like you're maybe a little crazy for doing the things you do, I promise you're not. I feel like I'm insane about half the time, but it's not true. You are your worst critic, and just love yourself, babe, okay? I know it's hard. It's honestly one of the hardest things to do in this world is love yourself. I love my friends and my family easy. Like, that's the easy part. Loving yourself is the hard part. So I completely understand that, like, it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy realizing if you are doing these self-destructive things, but someone is there for you. I promise you. I love you. My DMs are always open. I know that I might not know some of you personally, but I will happily talk to any of you anytime you need. And yeah, I love y'all. I hope the rest of y'all's week goes amazing. I hope that any of this made sense. If it didn't, I apologize. Again, I feel like I've apologized so much this episode. But I will see y'all next week with a little bit of a lighter episode, and hopefully my headspace is a little better so I don't want to say perform better for y'all, but make a little more sense and not be as all over the place. But I love y'all. Thank you for listening. If you do end up going and listening to the other two, y'all should let me know what y'all think about that. But new episodes every Wednesday. So I will see y'all next Wednesday, and bye. Mwah.